Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us today. I am Nin, and I will be your host. Let's start with my background. I started my professional career at Merrill Lynch with their private client group. At Merrill, we managed portfolios of high net worth individuals. While it was great to trade stocks and bonds, I was always curious about how these companies went public. Thus, after business school, I joined Pacific Crest Securities. Pacific Crest Securities is a tech-focused investment bank with a global presence focused on software, communications, semiconductors, and internet and digital media. Here are a few transactions I worked on at PCS. In 2005, IPOs were at the peak, and it was amazing to take all these companies public. But that led to another question. How do VCs know what companies to invest in and which ones to take public? Thus, I joined Alpha Capital Partners. Alpha is a generalist fund with about $135 million of assets under management. My most recent transaction at Alpha was Circon, a software as a service provider company. At Alpha, I realized how inefficient the fundraising process was, not necessarily at Alpha, but in general. That's how Nin Ventures came into existence. Nin Ventures is a first of its kind technology venture capital fund to be marketed, raised, managed, and reported online. The general solicitation and general advertising under the Jobs Act and Rule 506C of the U.S. Securities Act made it possible for us to raise this fund. This rule came into effect September 23rd, and we were the first ones to go live with a website and videos about our fund. Nin Ventures also became the first venture fund to be seen on a billboard, which was followed by in-taxi ads and other social media facilitated marketing. So what will Nin Ventures Technology Fund invest in? The fund will invest in Series A and B rounds and will write a check anywhere from $1 to $5 million based on industry, sector, and stage. Our focus is primarily on financial services, education software, internet and digital media, mobile communication, cloud computing, 3D printing, and other path-breaking sectors within the United States. Let's start with the basic question. Why venture capital? Historically, if you look at U.S. Venture Capital Index and S&P 500, you will notice U.S. Venture Capital Index tends to outperform S&P 500. Not only that, there's correlationship. So what does that mean? For example, your traditional portfolio consists of 70% stocks, 20% bonds, and 10% money market investment. With addition of venture capital, your portfolio can now be 60% stocks, 20% bonds, 10% money market, and 10% venture capital investment. The addition of venture capital will not only help you diversify your investment, it will help you mitigate the risk given the inverse correlation between S&P 500 and U.S. Venture Capital Index. So why venture capital and what is our strategy? Our strategy is to invest in early to growth stage path-breaking technology-focused companies. From 2002 to 2012, technology investments have dominated the venture capital industry. And the highest amount of venture capital funding occurred in the early to expansion stage companies. If you notice, from 2002 to 2011, sector-focused funds have outperformed generalist funds. and technology sector has outperformed the U.S. Venture Capital Index. With early and expansion stage companies yielding the highest returns. Thus, Nin Ventures will invest in path-breaking, early to growth stage technology companies. We will not only provide adequate financing, but will lend our domain expertise and network of partners to help companies with recruitment, PR, and marketing and a viable exit strategy. The strength of our team, the value of our network, and our funding model that's designed to reduce management costs creates a unique investment offering. So who can invest in the fund? One must be an investor and verify themselves as an accredited investor before they can invest with us. An accredited investor is an individual with an income of more than $200,000 per year or a income of $100,000 in each of the last 2 years, or has a net worth exceeding $1 million either individually or jointly with his or her spouse, excluding the primary residence, or an entity that has to be a total assets in excess of $5 million. There are multiple ways to verify if you are an accredited investor. For an individual, income, asset, and third-party verification. For entity, it's asset and third-party verification. Credentials is the most preferred third-party verification method with a simple and confidential process at a click of your button. We're also rolling out a new program that will let investors invest in our fund using their retirement plans. For example, self-directed IRA. Self-directed is a descriptive term that is used to describe how some IRA providers administer their assets. With a self-directed IRA, the client controls what their IRA invests in. I will now pass on the presenter role to Patrick Hagan, who will talk about this in detail, including the interest group and our association with them.
Hello, Nin. Can you hear me? This is Patrick.
Yes, I can.
Thank you. As Nin mentioned, I'm with the Entrust Group. We are a self-directed IRA provider that specializes in holding alternative assets for IRA and 401k account holders. Primarily, we focus on things like private placement and real estate investments. So where we fit into the equation here is that we will, as an IRA provider, hold a private placement investment for somebody that wants to do this within their tax-deferred retirement plan. We've been in this space for over 30 years. We currently manage about $3 billion in investor assets, and we have several offices throughout the country that you can work with. Next slide, please, Nin. A self-directed IRA is a descriptive term, as Nin mentioned. It's basically an IRA that's controlled by the client. So instead of taking your money and putting it into what we feel would be a good investment for you, we take your money and wait for you to direct what you want to do with those funds. So by virtue of not having a fiduciary role and not being involved in what you're doing, we can hold any investment the IRS allows, which includes private stock. So if you wanted to invest in a private stock investment, you generally would not be able to do that through your standard bank or brokerage company. That's where somebody like Entrust would step in and hold that type of asset. So we're very much of a niche business. We do the investments that the big banks and brokerage firms generally won't hold, but that the IRS says are perfectly acceptable. The advantage of a self-directed IRA is that the investments that you make, whether they're private placement or publicly traded stock, would grow tax-deferred, or in the event of a Roth IRA, could grow tax-free. Then an IRA with Entrust is the same at its core as an IRA with any other provider, and that is you have built-in tax-deferred growth. So if you make an investment for $100,000 and it grows to $150,000, typically you would pay capital gains on the $50,000 of gain. If you did the same thing through a retirement plan, it would be tax deferred through a traditional, a SEP, or a simple IRA, it would actually be tax-free if you did it through a Roth IRA, which is the post-tax version of a retirement plan. So the benefit here is two things. One is all the built-in components you have with an IRA and the tax-deferred or tax-free growth, and then the ability to diversify, as Nin mentioned earlier, into some of these alternative assets. The average IRA provider does not want to hold this type of investment. Entrust for 32 years has specialized specifically in holding this type of asset. So this is the niche business that we operate in. Next slide, please, Nin. The process of a self-directed IRA is pretty simple. You would go through the normal steps that you would with Nin Ventures. The only distinguishing factor here is that the investment is going to be made using your retirement plan, not in your personal name. So before you can actually facilitate the transaction, you would need to set up a self-directed IRA with the Entrust Group. That's a pretty simple process of completing an application, sending it into my office. We'll establish the account the same day. The second step would be to get money into that account. That's going to be one of two ways, either a transfer from an IRA to an IRA or a rollover from an old qualified plan like a 401k over to the IRA account with us. The third step then is to direct Entrust to process the private placement investment for your self-directed IRA. So as I mentioned earlier, it's all self-directed. You control the investment, when it happens, how it happens, and with who it happens with. We just take your order and process that investment for you, provide record keeping and thereby custodianship for the self-directed IRA that owns the investment. Once it's held, we hold the asset. We wait for either the returns to come back by dividends, or when you eventually sell that investment, it's going to flow back to your Entrust self-directed IRA. At that point, you will not owe any capital gains because the IRA has the built-in tax-deferred piece, and you could then decide if you want to make another investment with us or if you want to move it back to a brokerage account, put it back in the market, or do whatever you decide to do. Next slide, please. As far as types of retirement plans, it can be self-directed. Pretty much any type of retirement plan can be self-directed. The most common is the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA. The traditional IRA is the standard IRA that started in 1974. It's your standard pre-tax retirement plan. You set money aside to make investments and grow over your lifespan. The Roth IRA came out in '98, which is kind of the inverse of the traditional IRA. It's the after-tax version of a retirement plan. So with the traditional IRA, you're growing tax-deferred. With a Roth IRA, if you follow the guidelines and do everything appropriately, you can actually grow your account tax-free. If you're self-employed, you have the option of a SEP IRA, a simple IRA, or an individual 401k plan. Key point here in this slide is that any of these funds can be self-directed and be put into an investment like a private placement through Nin Ventures. If you have any questions about the self-directed IRA, feel free to contact Nin, or you can contact me directly. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have, walk you through the paperwork, walk you through the steps involved. Whatever we can do to make it as seamless and simple as possible, we're happy to do that. And that's all I have, Nin. If you want to take it back, you can proceed with the rest of the presentation.
Sure. Thanks, Patrick. Let me walk everybody through the investment process step by step in detail. To invest in Nin Ventures or use your self-directed IRA, you must first sign up on nin.vc. Sign up is simple. First name, last name, email, and acknowledge that you are an accredited investor. Once you sign up, you get access to our marketing materials. That is PPM, investor presentation, and other suggested reading. You get invited to attend our calls and events, just like this one. You can also schedule a one-on-one meeting with us at our office or online via Skype. Once you decide to make an investment, accept the risk and disclosure statement that will explain what venture capital investing is. The next step is verify accreditation. Once you verify accreditation, Patrick will get in touch with you to help establish the separate IRA account and how to direct Entrust to process that information to nin.vc. Once all that is in order, it's a matter of filling out subscription document as guided by Patrick and a W-9 form on nin.vc. The last step is payment, and it's as simple as providing checking and routing number that Entrust or Patrick provided you, and the amount you wish to invest. Please note that venture capital is a high-risk, high-reward investment vehicle, and we strongly recommend reviewing the other suggested reading on our website before making any investment decisions. On that note, we're open to questions. Please type your questions in the chat box and we'll make sure we answer them all. Let me start with the very first question here. Can you please tell us about the team and the backgrounds? Let me go back to our team slide here. Like I had mentioned before, I am the CEO of the firm and I head the company. We also have a managing partner at the management level, and we also have a bunch of investment associates that are responsible for reviewing deals and managing the fund on a day-to-day basis. That would, I would say, comprise of our team. More information about our team can be found on our website. If you go to nin.vc and then end up visiting our About Us page, our team information is listed up there. Together, we have about 22 years of working experience when it comes to finance and venture capital. Let's see the next question. Whom should I contact if I have any questions? Any questions that are related to the investment in NIN Ventures should be directed to myself or our firm, that is nin.vc. You can reach us online or you can contact us via email on contact@nin.vc, or feel free to call us 312-953-0930. What does the current deal pipeline for the new fund looks like? Before I answer that question, let me answer, how do you plan to source our deal? So we have partnered up with a bunch of incubators and accelerators in town in this regard. We have also partnered up with a lot of people in the investment banking industry. A majority of our deal flow comes from the network that I have established over the few years, which is, I would say, CEOs of different companies that have been serial entrepreneurs. It has also been the network of people that I had known during my banking days. Some of our deal flow comes from fellow venture capitalists. I sit on the Illinois Venture Capital Board, and I meet a lot of VCs through that. I also have, normally in NIN Ventures, when we do deals, we'll do deals in syndicate. And as a part of that, we have to be in touch with other VCs and know what they are up to. And that's how I think majority of our deal flow is coming from, which is our network, with incubators, accelerators, entrepreneurs, and other VCs as well. What does the current deal pipeline for the new fund looks like? The current deal pipeline, we're looking at multiple deals currently. Like I had mentioned, financial services sector is an area of interest. Education software is an area of interest. We're very much ready in terms of when it comes to making an initial close and and I think once we make an initial close, we should be ready to move forward into making that investment. Has nin.vc achieved minimum investment threshold? If so, how much has been raised, and has nin.vc made an initial investment? Exactly to my previous comment here, we're very close to making an initial close, and once we make an initial close, we'll start making investments. Our very first investment will be in the financial services and education software space. Any other questions? Thank you all for being on the call. Sign to begin your investment process, and feel free to reach us at contact@nin.vc or 312-9530 to schedule a one-on-one meeting with us or with any other questions or material requests. Have a wonderful day and happy investing.